well, this is the end. It's all over. Which is a shame because Nintendo is on such a hot streak for such a long time now. It's sad to think that it's all over. It's the Wii U again. Just kidding. But that's what everybody on the internet's saying is going to happen. Everyone seems to be very concerned about what's going on with the Nintendo Switch right now. I will admit that Nintendo probably could have done things a lot better. They should have announced the price and solidified console like bundles and costs along with certain software and things like that at the end of the presentation because a lot of people started spreading around things that were not 100% true, such as the cost of Mario Kart World primarily being the one. Everybody was saying, well, digital's going to be 80, physical's going to be 90, and this is the yeah, and it's like no, 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 no. That's not the case. In the United States, it's 80 both digital, physical. Just put that to bed. That's already been put to bed about 5 days ago. To be honest with you, I've thought about making this podcast a couple of times now, but honestly, new information seems to be coming out every single day. Things are really crazy right now, and I've just decided to kind of hold off for a week and just kind of wait for sort of the dust to settle. It seems to be sort of settling now. The last thing that I think we're waiting on is just when does the United States get pre-orders, and is that 450 base model the final price, or are they going to change it? So as of right now, at the time of the recording of this, I recorded this, by the way, on the 14th of April, 2025, and it is still 450 for the console, 500 for the bundle with Mario Kart World, which is pretty good deal for the digital version of that. The accessories are all about the same. I think the Pro controller is about $10 more expensive. Everything else I don't really care about. I think it's like $50 for that camera, a few other things here and there. I'm not really paying too much attention to that kind of stuff. I'm probably not going to even get a Pro controller unless they release some really cool limited edition ones in the future. If they give us like a Metroid Prime, like Switch 2 Pro controller, yeah, I'm gonna buy that. But I've got quite a few Pro controllers from the Switch era that still work great. I use them all the time. I'm just gonna start using those on the Switch too, honestly. I know there's not gonna be a chat button or nothing like that, but I'm not gonna be chatting that much online anyway. I'm assuming because the price is so or not confidential, because the price is so controversial. I'm gonna just throw in my 2 cents about what I think of the price. 450 for a Nintendo console is quite a lot. I'm not gonna lie. However, if you look across the aisle at PlayStation, you know, their base digital only PlayStation 5 console right now is $400. And if you're going to get the disc bundle, which is of course the one that most people I think would want, that is $450. And the PS5 Pro starts at $700. So I think I know a lot of people out there would say, well, yeah, but the Switch 2 is not going to be as powerful as a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 Pro, which I'll agree with you with. It's not going to be as strong as that. However, Nintendo also knows that they're going to put out a lot more software than Sony is. I love Sony. I love my PlayStation and I love my Nintendo Switch. I have a lot more chances of buying a Switch game than a PlayStation game. You know, Nintendo's putting out roughly a first party published game every single month in the Switch's life cycle. There's been obviously a few months here and there that they've not done it, but you can pretty much guarantee 9 to 10 months out of the year, they're going to be giving you a first party game, whether that's a port of an old Wii U game or a brand new game like Tears of the Kingdom or, something smaller like, ARMS, they've kind of been pretty consistent with their releases. And I like a lot of the stuff that both companies put out, but I hate to say it, but Nintendo just does put out a lot more as far as software is concerned. Uh, my PlayStation 5, I don't buy many games for it that are like Sony Studios. A lot of I'd love to buy more. There's a few games that I'm still waiting on. I'm still really excited for, and we haven't heard anything. The big one for me is Wolverine. I really want to play that game on the PS5, but now I'm starting to think, is it even going to come out for the PS5? Is this going to be a PS6 title? I'm hoping that they're just going to say, oh, here's a trailer, and it's coming out next year. Great, exciting, fantastic. But I don't really know. And I think Nintendo knows that. I think that's why they're competitively pricing their title, because they're going to say, hey, well, look, we may not be as powerful as the PS5 Pro, but we're going to have more software. We're going to have more games. This is going to be your one-stop shop for all Nintendo needs. And to see how Tears of the Kingdom is running and how Breath of the Wild is running on this thing, I, you know, they're trying to bring developers like From Software to make exclusive games for them. I I think we're going to be kind of surprised by some of the more serious moves they're going to make this generation. Um, I don't think it's just going to be this typical, status quo from Nintendo that we've seen in this last generation. Another thing I wanted to talk about with the price is not only are other people charging more for their consoles, including Sony, who has actually raised the cost of their console midway through the generation, but I did a little bit of digging and I went on the United States inflation calculator, which goes back all the way to, I think, 1902 or something like that. I don't really know. But I went ahead and just typed in, you know, the cost of like the Nintendo 64 console when it launched. That initially launched, I looked it up. It launched at 199 for the console by itself. No pack-in game, no nothing, no Super Mario World like with the Super Nintendo, like just by itself. You get nothing with it. It doesn't do nothing. $200. So in 1996, $200 was basically the rough equivalent of $405. That's pretty close to our 450 number that we've got right here. Not only that, but if you look at the cost of Super Mario 64, the actual game, I was under the impression, and this may have just been my local video game distributor, but I always thought that my parents paid $70 for Mario 64. But I looked it up and I was like, at launch, what was the MSRP for this game? And a lot of places said that it was kind of all over the place, but the consensus was $60 for Mario 64. I think certain other games, like I think like Doom 64 was like $72 or $74. Like there's some that were more expensive than others, but most people said in 1996 Mario 64 was $60. So I typed that in. So how much that would cost today would be $122. That's quite a bit above 80, right? Now I'm not saying that, hey, I'm gonna argue for Nintendo, right? That I'm gonna sit in their corner and just shill for them and just say, well, I'm fine with paying more money because it's fair for the corporation. It's like, no, 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 no. I would much rather pay the $60. But I also can't expect everything to always skew into my favor, right? Like, I understand that it's great for me, but I also do believe in a fair deal. I don't want to just get what's mine and, to hell with everybody else. It's like, well, I'm a little bit more comfortable with a fair deal. Um, and I think if you account for inflation, also maybe looking at the development time. I mean, how long did they have to make Mario 64? How many people did they have working on that team versus how big are the teams today? How long they take to develop? You know, I'm not going to get political or nothing like this, but I do believe in paying artists a fair wage. And, Nintendo has some of the best video game developers on the planet working for them. They have some of the best artists working there. Um, and I'm fine with paying a little bit more money for a premium product like that. Um, in this sort of, I can sort of, this kind of segues into my next point that I wanted to talk about with the pricing was I'm actually very, very excited that Nintendo is going to have such a wide range of differently priced software this generation. I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, right now, I think if you go on Target's website, um, the Bravely Default game is down to 40, and then Mario Kart is like 80. It's like that's a $40 difference in games here. There's a wide gap in the software that's coming out for the Switch too. And to me that's fantastic. I love that because that tells me as the consumer, sure, you buy this Brave the Default game, it's a 3DS port, it's older software, we've up-resed it to HD. I understand that it's also a game card key. We'll talk about that later. Um, but this Mario Kart thing, we believe in this more. We put our top people on it. This is a brand new title. We're trying something new with this. This is the hot, new, exciting place to be. And to me, that's kind of a subtle way of letting us know um, who are the people behind this game, right? What does Nintendo believe in the most? Um, Very famously, I know a lot of people have been asking what development team have been working on the new Donkey Kong game. Like, who is making the Donkey Kong Bonanza game? And Nintendo doesn't want to say. They don't want to say because they don't want to compare teams and who's good and who's not. And they just want it to be all one Nintendo brand. And I understand it from that perspective, but I think like you guys, I love who's directing my game. I mean, look at all of the love for Masahiro Sakurai, right? When they announced that Sakurai was directing the new Kirby Air Ride, everyone just went nuts. Like people were probably already reasonably excited for a new Kirby title, but to see Sakurai's name on there, it's like, whoa, that's a great way to sell that title. Same thing with Miyazaki-san from the From Software team, right? Whenever you see that Miyazaki-san is directing a title, um, it's like, whoa, that's going to be good. He's attached to that. Um, so I don't quite like that Nintendo is not telling us, okay, this game is made by this team within Nintendo, and where this team is doing this, and it's like, but they kind of are with the way they're going to price these games going on in the future. I think at the end of the generation, when you look at all of the $80 titles, I'm willing to bet you that those are all going to be developed in-house by Nintendo from those teams that directly work under Miyamoto and Eiji Aonuma and all of those people, right? I'd be willing to bet you that that's sort of their kind of quiet little hinting way of telling you who's working on the title. That's one thing that kind of frustrated me a little bit during the Switch's generation. I went out and I bought a lot of games for the Switch. I really loved the Switch. I bought a ton of titles for it. But and I remember this was a really hot button thing during the Metroid Dread release, was people were like, "How is Metroid Dread the same price as Breath of the Wild?" Like those games are totally different. And I agree with you. I agree. If these two games were coming out on the Switch too, I would say that Dread would probably be a $60 title and Breath of the Wild would be an $80 title. There'd be a $20 price difference there because of not only content and time, but development and all of that kind of stuff, right? Also, Metroid's maybe more niche, so maybe it's the lower price tag is going to maybe entice more people to try that. Um, I don't know. I'm curious with this. They've got my attention. Now, I will be disappointed if Nintendo just kind of sort of automatically stamps a $70-$80 price on everything. That's going to be disappointing because it's like, well, that's not what I want to see. Um, I'm really curious what Retro and Nintendo are gonna recommend for the cost of Metroid Prime 4 because Metroid Prime Remastered was so ridiculously cheap at $40. I mean, that's one of the greatest deals, this generation on a game, you know? Um, so I'd be curious what it's gonna be. If I were to bet you, it's probably just gonna be 60 across the board with maybe a $5 to $10 upgrade for Switch 2. And they'll probably include the upgrade if you're an online subscriber. But I am excited about the price differences and the cost. I think it's relatively fair. You know, like I said, it's been so long for me, and I've passed on a lot of games from Nintendo that I would originally buy if they were a little bit cheaper. You know, um, but I think that Nintendo knows, hey, the new Mario Kart, people are gonna want that, especially because this one looks really big and really crazy. I'm gonna do another recording of this after the direct for Mario Kart comes out. I'm really curious to see what they show us there. Um, Yeah, I'm strangely optimistic with the pricing because I'm thinking that most of the stuff that comes out, they're gonna really have to believe in it to sell it at $80. Because if they know that it's not that great, if it's not like a huge blockbuster, people are probably gonna pass. Um, Mario Kart looks like a sure deal. The $70 price for the Donkey Kong looks like a sure deal as well because that looks like it's gonna be crazy inventive. I mean, I'm saying it again, it looks like the Odyssey team is making a Donkey Kong game. It looks wild. I'm a little skeptical of it just because I'm not a huge 3D Donkey Kong guy. I loved Returns and Tropical Freeze, but we'll see. I may wait for a review or more footage of that. Hopefully, we'll get some more information in a direct about that title. Um, but yeah, they've got me with the Mario Kart. I'd be willing to gamble on that. I think that's going to be fantastic. Moving on though to the actual cartridges, I'm a little afraid of these cartridges, to be honest with you. We'll start off with the game key card thing right now. That is both horrible and actually good at the same time, which is weird. It's not just a code in a box. It is actually a physical key card, so it actually you can sell it, which is great. That's fantastic. And, like I could let someone borrow it and they could play it if they wanted to. Um, that's actually kind of a smart move on Nintendo's part because if you think about it, if I'm friends with somebody and I'm like, "Yo, you got to try this game. Here, borrow it." I have it already completely downloaded on my Switch too. They take it to their house, they put it on their Switch, they download it, they play it. We both love the game. I take it back home with me, and he wants to play it. Well, it's already downloaded on his Switch. All he's got to do is hop over to that eShop, pay for it digitally, and it unlocks on his console. He doesn't have to download anything else. It's 100% ready to go. So it's kind of a sneaky way of kind of encouraging you to buy a digital version with a physical version. It's really kind of weird. It's kind of bizarre. Um, but once again, it is a bummer that it's not all just on the card physically. That once again, if those servers go down, that card doesn't mean anything. It's useless. It's garbage. So it's like obviously there's huge negatives to it as well. Um, but that seems to be a Square Enix kind of decision. That doesn't seem to be like a Nintendo thing. They don't want to deal with it. They probably don't. They want max money possible for that game. Uh, because the inverse of that is that Cyberpunk is going to be completely on a Nintendo Switch cartridge. CD Projekt Red is once again doing the right thing and is completely putting it on there like they did with The Witcher. So, and The Witcher will probably have a free update for Switch too. I'd be willing to bet you they're gonna be like, "Hey, free update for the Switch too. If you've got the cartridge for Witcher, just go ahead and download this little patch and you're good to go." Who knows? They may even put out a Witcher 3 complete Switch edition on Switch too. A couple years. Um, Overall, one of my biggest concerns, and this is just me being selfish, is that I do live in Japan, and I just hope that the cartridges are not region locked. That's one thing that I hope they don't do. I don't think they're going to do it. But speaking of region locked, as of right now, in Japan, they're they're region locking their consoles so that you have to have a Nintendo of Japan account and you have to have your language set to Japanese. You cannot play in English. You can't play in any other language. Um, and as far as I know, you can't access any other eShops, which sounds horrible, except for the fact that it really actually helps. Like all of the Japanese people out here are very excited about it. My wife was telling me, I mean, she scrolls on X every once in a while. She was like, "Man, everyone's really excited for this Switch," and especially because Nintendo did such a pro Japanese consumer move with this. Uh, yeah, they all love the price because it's so cheap out here, and that's the reason why they wanted to keep the price low because the yen's not doing great right now. I do happen to think that this is a temporary measure from Nintendo. I think that probably halfway through the life cycle, if the yen bounces back and things get moving better out here, I think they'll just kind of quietly stop making that version, and on the counter they'll just over the counter they'll just sell the regular version, the regular global versions of these consoles. Unfortunately, that does put me into a predicament out here because I can't just go to a store and buy one now. I have to get mine through Nintendo, my Nintendo on the website out here, my Nintendo JP. Uh, Thankfully, my wife's Nintendo Switch console, she is an online subscriber, and she has had enough gameplay between Animal Crossing and Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Mario Odyssey. Those are her main three that she's played. Between those three, she's got well over like 200 hours. And so I submitted my pre order for the lottery. We should find out between, I think they said the lottery closes on the 22nd of April. And then between the 22nd of April and I believe the 7th of May, they will be pulling random accounts that can claim their pre-order. So if I don't hear by May 8th, I did not get one, right? Keep your fingers crossed for me. Hopefully that'll happen because I really don't want to have to get a pre-order in America, ship it to a family member out there, and then have them UPS it to me. Um, we've sent a few care packages through the USPS mail a few times, just the post service in America, and they have stolen things out of my packages before. So I don't feel like sending a Switch 2 through the mail, where someone's obviously just going to snag it. So it would have to go through UPS or some kind of certified mail. Uh, just that whole headache. Just I don't even want to talk about it. Hopefully, Nintendo of Japan will just give me a pre-order. That'd be great. I'd love you guys for it. I signed up for the multi-language version, which I'm sure, hopefully, not a lot of people are going to go for. They're just going to go for the cheaper other two options. But we'll see. You know, who knows what's going to happen with that. Speaking of pre-orders, though, I'm going to go out on a limb here. You know, with the whole state of the world right now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say nothing's going to happen with the price change of the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it's going to launch it at 450, just like they said. I think that all Nintendo's doing right now, the only reason they've paused the pre-orders is because they want to get all their ducks in a row, and they are probably saying, okay, project this out for 8 years. Run every scenario you can think of for the next 8 years, and how are we going to look financially? And I'm sure they're just looking at everything. What if the tariffs goes up? What if they go down? What if they don't happen at all? You know, are we good across every basic scenario? And then do we have plans in place if that scenario plays out? That's all they're doing right now, I think, is making a rule book because they don't want to guarantee you products right now before they have everything lined up. Once it's all done, the lawyers have everything in writing about what they're going to do. Then they'll say, okay, go. But I really don't think anything is going to change. I don't think the price is going to change. I don't really think any of that's going to happen. I'm not that concerned. I'm not that worried about it, to be honest with you. But overall, my overall opinions of the Nintendo Switch 2 are still positive. I do think that Nintendo has made some very crucial errors and I will kind of briefly talk about that now. Number one, obviously, that I've already stated, they should have really told us the prices of all this stuff in the direct. Not doing that has left it to the consumer, and people have just gotten numbers wrong and they've crossed the wrong thing. And, people looked it up and said, oh, Mario Kart's 80 or 90 euros. That must mean it's $90 in the United States. And it's like, no, no, no. Oh, no. And so I think they've learned their lesson. I think they're going to just, do the prices again, towards the end of the video. And just hopefully that will kind of keep everybody calm. Because, yeah, doing this, like slipping the price on a website and then just walking away and hoping it all works out just is not the best. People are not that smart. People are going to panic. They're going to go on the wrong website. They're going to see the wrong price, and they're going to, they're going to put it on a news article, and then everyone's going to freak out. And they're going to all kill each other, and we're all going to die. That's what's always going to happen unless you just say, "Hey, idiot, you're watching, the Nintendo of America version of this direct. This is the US dollar price that you will pay." And then you do that for the European ones, and then you do that for the Japanese ones, and you do that for the Korean ones. You're just like, all right, here's what you're paying. Don't look at what it's stuff. This is the price. They did mess up pretty bad by doing that. They really just try to slip in that price and just say, don't worry about it. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. They should have just started with the price. They gave us the price in the Nintendo Switch Direct the first time. I don't know. It's probably because it's the first time they're leaving that $300 range where they're just not comfortable. But we saw this coming. You had to have seen this coming. The price of the Switch was what? Wasn't it? It was $300. I'm pretty sure $299, and then the OLED was $350. I was like, oh, the next natural step is four, and 450 is really not that big of a shock considering that everything that's gonna do. When they started showing it off, I was like, this ain't gonna be cheap. When I saw 4K 60 or 1080p 120 frames, I was like, this is not gonna be cheap. There's just no way. Nothing gives you like 4K 60 and is cheap right now. We're just not there yet. Maybe in 10 years from now, but not yet, man. We're not there yet. We're still 4K is still the premier, you know, presentation, I would say. It's just I don't know. The other area that I think they really messed up is that pack-in title should have been a pack-in title. That Nintendo Switch Tour game. That was another one that people just love to latch onto. Is like, see, this is how greedy they are, and it's like, yeah, Nintendo. That's hard to argue with. It's hard to not see you as greedy for that because it's like, what's the game here? This is not that fun. This is something you would maybe buy at launch when there's nothing else to play, but it looks like you guys are going to have a lot to play. So why would I play this? Like, this is wild. Um yeah, and then Reggie has come out since then and kind of slyly said, "Yeah, Nintendo hates pack-ins. I used to have to make them do that. They don't want to do that anymore." It's like, yeah, that's not a good move because yeah, it's just like that software is just no one's gonna buy it out of principle. I mean, I'm not gonna buy it for $10. I mean, if it was like $2, if it was $2, 199, absolutely, I'll buy it, check it out, have my little fun. But for $10, eesh, that's kind of steep for just a little tech demo, man. Like I don't know. I'm not about that. I don't know what they're thinking with that. Um, my overall grade for the Nintendo Switch 2 right now is, I'd say, an 88% positive. 88% I'm positive on the whole thing. There's a lot of that stuff that I don't like or care about, but hey, I'm just not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy the camera. I'm not going to use all of the chat functionality stuff that they've got in there. Like, I just primarily, right now, I want the console at launch to play Mario Kart. And then the next month, I want to play uh, Donkey Kong, and then I really want to go back and revisit Tears of the Kingdom. I never beat it because I just hated the frame rate and how it looked, and I was like, I'm gonna just wait for the next Switch. And the fact that it looks like it's gonna run great, I want to go back and play that game, and I even kind of want to go back and play Breath of the Wild, and I'd like to go back and play. It's kind of ironic. I want to go play all the Zelda games now because they're all going to run great. I want to play Echoes of Wisdom too because that's going to get a free update. So it's like, this is less about me, you know, excited for 100% of what Nintendo's given me, but like I said, I'd say most of it I am. Most of it I'm pretty psyched about, you know? Um, and who knows if the chat functionality works great and they've got dedicated servers, I may end up loving it because when my buddies eventually get Switch 2s, when they eventually upgrade, if we could play Smash together like that, that would be incredible for me living out here in Japan. I'd love to play some games with people back home. I don't do that much now because I don't really use Discord. I don't really like Discord too much, you know? Uh, it's just not my style. I just don't really particularly care for it. So if Nintendo has some built-in free chat thing, as long as I'm an online subscriber, then it's like great. I'll use it, man. You know. And apparently we're all gonna get it for about a year for free. So it's hey. Plus, I guess also GameCube. I totally forgot about the GameCube stuff, man. Like it's gonna be GameCube day one of this thing. There's a lot gonna be here day one. I remember day one of the Switch. I was there for it. I took the day off work and I just played Breath of the Wild. But yeah, man, there wasn't much. There was not much to play. I remember I played Breath of the Wild a lot, but after like, I don't know, 20 hours, I just kind of like looked over the fence and I was like, what else is out there? It's like, oh, there's not much. Okay. So I just had to wait for Mario Kart 8. Like I said, overall, I'm fairly positive. I understand the tendency for everybody to say the sky is falling. It makes for a really great video. People love the clicks. Everybody likes to freak out, think that something bad, terrible is going to happen. But I think Nintendo's got some relatively smart people over there. They know kind of what's coming down the pipeline. We don't, this could flop. This could do really poorly for the first 6 months. No one may want to buy one. And guess what? They may just drop the price like the 3DS. You never know. Um, but I'm pretty confident in the new console. There's a few things out there that kind of scare me and bug me that I don't like. But on the whole, I'm feeling pretty positive, and it's fascinating to me because Japan loves it. Like my wife was telling me the other day, like uh, when I scheduled my pre-order through her account, I paid for it, but it was under her name. She kind of told me she was like, I kind of want one too, and this is saying I can only pre-order one. And I was like, "You want one?" I was like, "Why do you want one?" And she started telling me, she's like, "Well, I was reading about it on Twitter and everybody's just really excited. And, Japan is just really excited for this console. Like, they really are just all in. Everybody's ready to go line up and buy them." And it's amazing to me because then I go on my phone and I look at all the Americans. There's like, "Where the hell is Nintendo? And crap, and it just costs $80." And it's like, whoa, like, totally opposite opinions in Japan. Like that. I mean, I'm sure some people aren't happy about it in Japan, but overall, from the vibe that I'm getting out here from my wife to the other people I just see randomly in game stores, they're all pretty psyched on it. Uh, Probably because their console is cheaper, but I think if you look at the buying power, it's actually not. It's about the same, right? Because the yen is not great right now. That's how all the tourists are out here, you know, destroying the place. But anyway, that'll probably about do it for me. I'd just rather stay a little positive about this, right? The sky has not fallen yet. The world has not yet come to an end. Um, let's just wait till this thing comes out. When it comes out, we can all get our hands on it and see what it's about, and we can play these games, and the reviews are out there. If it's bad, then okay, I'm on board. Let's go get Nintendo. Let's, that we'll show up to their offices with the pitchforks and just demand refunds. Fine, but I get a feeling that they're not going to change the price. It's going to come out. It's going to be fine. It's going to be what we thought, which is a solid product from Nintendo. People are going to love it. There's going to be some nice surprises with Mario Kart World. The people that don't like Nintendo are still not going to like Nintendo. And ultimately, nothing's going to change. We're just going to ease into another Switch, you know, console lifespan, which I'm excited for. I still love my Switch. I still play it all the time. I was playing it actually today. Uh, and I'm really hoping that a lot of games are cross-platform than this year and next year. I'm hoping that we still get a lot of stuff. But I'm gonna choose to stay positive. I'm gonna stay optimistic, and I hope you do too. You guys take care of yourselves out there, and If you're ever feeling lonely, stop by again.